Well, hello. Welcome to Suburban Homesteader, Wyoming, Arizona. This is Sandy, and I appreciate you guys coming in tonight. So exciting. We've been having some conversation in the chat already because Rebecca is here. Rebecca's one of her superhero blessings that she has is being a blessing to others. Now, Julie, she was funny. She says, my superpower is not getting lost. I have a low opinion of GPS. That is awesome. And Ann Dale is here. Hello, Ann. And Charmaine. Hello. And Ginger's here. Excellent. People are just popping in. That's what I like to see. And it's a fun topic tonight. The topic is, does everyone have a superpower? Now, with Round the Hay Bell, that's a panel that I'm on, and we do a podcast and we do a live radio show. We are superheroes this season. And it got me to thinking, does everybody have a superpower? And so if you have a superpower, put it in the chat. And as we talk a little bit more, maybe you might realize, oh, I have more superpowers than I thought I had, right? Because first, I think you have to identify your superpowers. What are those things that you're naturally good at? What kind of skills have you learned so that you've made yourself a superpower? Maybe you've learned to do certain things and you can teach other people. You can enhance their lives. You can change their lives depending on what it is. Ginger says, I can talk a lot. Awesome. And everybody's saying hi. So when we think about it, what kind of talents, passions, sometimes a superpower is maybe you're passionate about helping people or helping animals. And Anne says, I have good taste in friends. She does have good taste in friends. So for me, when I break it down, when I'm trying to figure out a superpower that I have to kind of go back to what's my mission in life. My mission for my YouTube channel is to be self-sufficient, self-sustaining, and self-reliant. For me to do that, I have to have certain superpowers. I have to be proficient at gardening, cooking, baking, things like that. Now you can encourage and develop like being a hero in different areas of your life. But before I forget, I want to show you something. Tonight, we're going to give away one of these hats. It says Soil Mates. So later on, before the live is up, I am going to give that away to somebody. And you'll just have to send me an email. And I'll put up my email then. And you can, the computer's going to pick. I'm not going to pick. So it makes it very easy. Now, being courageous doesn't mean that you aren't afraid sometimes. It just means that you're still going to do those things. Like I think firemen and policemen have superpowers. They are courageous going into those situations, going into a fire to help somebody else. That's a superpower. And some of us in the United States that I actually know have that superpower. And Penny is in. Penny, we just barely got started. Seriously, barely got started. And Cheryl is here too. Yay. People are just popping in. Make sure you give me a thumbs up. That always helps with the algorithm. How YouTube figures out everything. There's a big algorithm. Now, heroic other things you might have. Maybe you don't think of yourself as courageous, but maybe you think of yourself as resilient. A lot of us have gone through a lot of different things in our lives. Some things that were extremely hard that other people might have gave up, but you have a superpower that you have been resilient and you've pushed through, and no matter how much it hurt and how scary it was, you have come to on the other side, and that makes you a superhero. Well, look who's here. Lazy Days Ahead with Jesse and Lisa. He says, I don't know, Sandy. I think everyone that can dodge a real bat may have a superpower too. Dodge a real bat. That would be a superpower. I agree. That is awesome. Sometimes a superpower can be a person that can be very empathetic to people. They can understand their pain. You know, sometimes you go through things and you don't really want to talk about it, but you do just want somebody to sit there. And if you have that gift that you don't have to interrupt, you don't have to say stuff, you don't have to do any of that stuff, you can just be there for your friend. That is a superpower that reaches so far beyond what you realize. I've heard people say, sometimes I just needed to have somebody sit by me. I didn't want their opinion. I didn't want their, well, this is the way things will turn out. This will do this. This will do that. I just wanted them there. And that's a difficult thing. So if you have that superpower, that is a true, true blessing. And the Vineyard Farmhouse is here. Hello, hello. How are ya? Now, I think a superpower that we can have, especially as homesteaders, actually anybody, you don't have to be a homesteader, is to have integrity. That if you say you're going to do something, you're doing it. Look who's here. Liberty Layers Hideout. Hello, how are you? Thanks for coming into the live tonight. Tonight we are talking about superpowers. Now, sometimes you think to be a superhero, you got to have a cape. You don't got to have a cape. And says, I try to do that. Sometimes my opinion gets in the way. I mean, it's difficult, you know, because you want to help that person that's going through stuff. But sometimes if you can just be that good listener, no opinions, just listen and give them hugs when they need it. That is an amazing gift. It's an amazing superpower. Charmaine says she's a good listener. See, that is a superpower. U.S. Freedom 5. Hello, how are ya? Oh, see, this is a good superpower. Mine is caring leadership. That is a superpower. All of us need some leaders in our lives. And if you can be a caring leader, that can change people's world. That can seriously rock it. Just think of the times in your life that you had jobs and the different people that were your boss. The ones that have that soul of a leader, you just basically do anything for them. You would work harder, you would stay late, you would do all this stuff that the other people wouldn't do. But then you can have those bosses that do not have a superpower. And they're horrible. Just horrible. All of us have experienced it sometimes. Jesse says, integrity, firm adherence to the code of especially moral and artistic values, incorruptible. So true. Now, another one is self-care. And I think sometimes we forget that. We forget that you need that superpower. You always want to help people. You always want to do stuff. But if you're giving and never stopping and having that self-care superpower, you'll implode. You seriously will implode. And it can be devastating, not just to you, but all the people around you. So there has to be that balance. And that is a superpower. Now, what about heroic actions? Have you ever thought of yourself as having a superpower that does that? Jesse says, self-care is a practice of taking care of your physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual well-being. Excellent. Yes. Yep, had both in the Army, but I learned from a bad leader on what not to do. But a good leader, I tried to match their goodness. I mean, it's contagious, don't you think? That if you have a leader that has that superpower of leadership, you just want to imitate because they are willing to do everything. If they're asking you to do something, they're willing to do that too. And that is an amazing superpower. Because I think a lot of times, especially with all of our social media and everything that we have in the television and magazines, we don't realize that all of us have superpowers. And sometimes you just need to work on those superpowers so that you can really help yourself and help others. So, what are some actions you could take? What about every day having something you're going to help somebody or say something, say a kind word to somebody, send them a thank you note, send them a little card or a gift or a message or just those any kind of acts of kindness. You open the door for somebody. You talk kindly to somebody. You let them go in front of you in the grocery line. You've had a hard day and you just want to get home, but you just never know how that person, what their life could change in just letting them go ahead in the line for you. Last night I was in Home Depot and the customer ahead of us, there was a great big line. The customer ahead of us, there was issues. We'll just say there was issues. And one of the other workers came by and she said, you can go down to the service desk and they'll check you out too. So I took my cart and I went down there. And when I got into the line down there, the person that was in front of me at the original line was now behind me because they had to get around and all the way back down there. And I said to him, you know, you can go ahead of me. You were ahead of me in the other line. And he just was like, thanks. I got to take this to work and then I can finally go home. And I thought, that's an act of kindness. And like Anna's saying, choosing an attitude of kindness. Now, I saw Jennifer Ocean Homestead. I mentioned you in a video today because I was planting those tomatoes you sent me. And Rudy is in here too. And thanks, Jesse, for doing that for Brian. Thank you. But these are just super powers that I think sometimes we just don't even realize we have. And we do have those. What about standing up for yourself or for other people? Have you ever been in a situation and you may not even know that person that's getting picked on? And all of a sudden, you need to use a superpower. You need to say, wait, back up. This isn't okay. You know, I see those things on TV and the news and something's bad's happened and there's all these people just standing around. They got their camera so they can take video of it, but are they helping that person? No. They're not using a superpower. How many things we could change in our lives and other people's lives if we would just stand up for other people. You know, you see somebody taking an advantage at work, say something. You're in school and somebody's getting picked on. Say something, do something. That is a superpower. And it is scary. In our crazy world, it can be scary. But you got to. That's right, Ginger. You got to speak out. Anne says, stand up and speak out. We just have to. We have to make a difference in our world. Now, we may not be able to make a difference in the whole great big world around us, but in that little world that we have, you just don't know your action, how it helps somebody. They help somebody, they pay it forward, it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. And it can be an amazing blessing that you may never know all the things that happen because you were that person. Ginger says that we need to find our voices in a nice way. That's right. You don't be going up and being in somebody's face unless you really have to. But for the most part, it's like, whoa, let's take it down some notches. Let's stop this. Let's change the narrative. And sometimes when somebody's yelling at somebody, it doesn't really have anything to do with that person. That person is having a bad day. You don't know what's happening in their lives. I've seen that in the workplace, that somebody is just, bam, something sets them off and it's just like, wham. But really, for the most part, it doesn't a lot of times have to do with that person. It's the person that's feeling so frustrated, and you're an easy person to take it out on. That happens in families a lot of times. It can be stuff that's at work, but they take it out on the people they love at home. And so you got to be careful because you got to use superpowers in the right way. Okay, be responsible. That's all part of that. Another heroic thing is to always be learning. I think that is just so, so important to always be, what can I learn today? What can I change because of what I've learned? Jessie says, sometimes you say more by saying less. And I think that's true. There is a benefit of that holy silence. I have these little Post-it notes, both here in Wyoming and down in Arizona. And it just says holy silence. It's on my refrigerators. It's on my mirrors. And it's just to remind me that I don't necessarily have to say everything that I think. It doesn't all have to come out of my mouth, right? And one day this winter, Joe comes into the house down in Arizona, and we have a vent really close to the refrigerator. And he said that he gets into the kitchen, and there's this yellow piece of paper, this Post-it note, and it's spinning around like this because it's right above the vent, and the airflow is just perfect, and it's spinning and spinning and spinning. And he literally grabs it in the air, and it says holy silence. And he said to me later when I got home, he goes, man, that made me think. And I thought, that is good. Jessie says, just like when Lisa speaks so much, she barely lets me speak. Jessie, my word is gold. I try my best that I do what I say. That is such a blessing. And I mean, honestly, sometimes maybe you can't, but for the most part, you just rearrange your schedule because that's what you said. And so that's what you do. YouTube has taught me, Jennifer says this, YouTube has taught me way more than 3 years of college. And it's actually useful things that we all should know. Oh, that's true. Because you can really learn some great things. The homesteading community as a whole, they just share everything. They just share every bit of knowledge that they have. Do you have to be wise sometime with YouTube? Yes, you do. But I too have learned just so many things. And I have met so many people that are just filled with integrity. It's just such a blessing. It's a superpower that makes me strive to do more, to be better. And I appreciate that. So as we go on this journey on learning our superpowers, I think you really got to surround yourself with incredible individuals. And that will help you find and hone and make your superpowers better. Anne says, That's the only thing we really have in this world is our word. That's true. Yep, and the word of the Lord. That's right. You know, we have to forget about all those crazy things in our world and really go back to the basics of your soul. And I think it's important. Anne says, his word trumps us all. So, so true. But let's stop for a second. I'm going to give you a little bit of time to write any superhero, superpower that you may have. And I am going to let Nightbot pick my winner of this hat. Soil matters. I love a good soil for your garden, for your trees, for your vegetables. Actually, I love the smell of soil. It's just important. Ginger says, yes, block out all the unhealthy noise. Know when to turn it off. Yeah, the other day I wanted to, I don't know, I was just in a mood to watch a movie. That's all, it was. I bet you I started, I don't know how many, 10, maybe not 10. We'll say 6. And it was like, yeah, no. No. So I just went on to Amazon and I've been watching the series The Chosen again. I think I've watched it 3, 4, 5 times. All 4 seasons. But I love it. Matthew says, slow to speak, quick to listen, not my superpower. But I think there can be things that we can hone and they can become our superpower. Okay, so I am going to write, Anne says, I think I can have a superpower of sharing kindness. Anne is one of the sweetest, kindest persons you will ever meet in your entire life. That's a great series. I'm watching it now. I love that series. Charmaine says, me too. Okay, so I'm going to type my little thing, and Nightbot is going to pick us a winner. You do have to live in the United States. It's so hard for us to mail things out of the United States. But let's see who our winner is. Nightbot, they just pick out of the people that have made comments. Rudy, right there. Rudy, you are my winner. I'm going to send you this hat. Woo, woo, woo. Awesome. So I hope you like it, Rudy. Oh, and Cora's in here. Hey, Cora, I was just thinking about you. And I would like to see some photos from Japan. You should send them in an email to me. Seriously, I would just so much love them. Rainstorm Hunter. We have had rain and rain and rain from last night to today. But the last few days, it's rained hard, then it's just sprinkled. It's been really misty. And in fact, the other day it snowed. And then it rained and all the snow melted. But I went out to my rain gauge and it said 1.5 inches of rain. Now, we've only been back home for 7, 8, 9 days. And so I was very happy with 1 inch of rain, 1.5 inches of rain. So sending sunshine. I'm okay with sunshine too. I'd like to plant some things in my garden. I was going to plant my elevated raised bed today, but we moved it out into the back patio instead of our side deck because Joe thought that was a better place for it. And it rained and rained and rained. And I thought, I can't plant that. So I just can't do it. So we need rain too, doing the dance. That is awesome. So what I hope through this live stream, because I always like to have a topic. If you come in anytime, you know that I like to have topics, is what kind of mission you have in your life. What kind of heroic things you can do in your everyday life. I just think it is so important to be part of a solution instead of part of a problem. And I know on YouTube you get lots more views if you're part of the problem and you want to just rant and rave and but I don't think that helps anybody in the long run. So I want you to find what you're passionate about, what you're good at, what you're naturally good at. What things can you learn and become good at? How can you help somebody every single day? Charmaine, that is so, so kind of you. Thank you so much. And I just think that all of us have superpowers. All of us have things to give to ourselves, to the people around us, and to our world at large. Now, some people will be, they're very big in leadership and they can really affect thousands. Most of us don't do that. We affect a smaller circle, but both are important. And I think it's important that we become the heroes of our lives. Anne says, be the hero. Take the grocery cart back where it belongs. I know, I'm always surprised when people don't put their grocery cart back. It's like, were you in that much of a hurry? You should have went on and ordered your stuff online and they would have delivered it to you when you pulled up into the parking lot. But you see it all the time. But just those little tiny things add up to greatness. I think it adds up to amazing things. And I think all of us can be superheroes. I think all of us have superpowers that we can just really, really help others with. Now, Ginger says, yes, plus it won't hit anyone's car. Well, in Wyoming, we have such winds. And I've literally seen shopping carts going across the parking lot. And it's like, oh my gosh, it's going to hit a car, And then somebody's got damage when somebody could have just as easily taken a few seconds or minutes and taken that cart back in. Just do those little things. Jesse says, be the hero and do your duty after your dog does his duty. That's true. Because a lot of people walk their dogs and they should be picking up that poo. I mean, literally around where I live, there's little, I guess I don't know what you call them. They're little doggy things. And you just pull the bag out. They're free. And I'm sure there's a lot of cities that do that. It is crazy. See, this is a superpower. I'm disabled and I always return my cart. Awesome. That is amazing. And that should make people think. Everybody needs to do that. Matthew says, yes, put the cart back, park further out, and know where the exits are. Yeah, we always park farther out because I always think that people don't care and they'll just whack your vehicle with their doors. And so Joe and I just always try to get by a shopping cart rack. And so it just works. Rudy says, my power is to save live streams from getting worse. Emergency exits. I think that's a good idea. I think in any situation, you should always know where the exits are. It's just a good thing to know because you don't know how you might be able to help somebody if a situation is bad. Jesse says, you won't have a cart issue if you tell your wife not to buy anything in the first place. Jesse, you're going to be in so much trouble. Yeah, Lisa's just going to be whacking on you. But we are already at 30 minutes. And so think about it this week. What is your superpower? Now, next week, I am 2 hours earlier. I have a community garden meeting that I can't be out of. It's our meeting that's mandatory, and it starts a little after 5. And so my live will be 4 o'clock Mountain Standard Time. So Central will be 5, Eastern it will be 6. So it will be a little bit different, but it'll still be fun. So I have 2 lives already scheduled. But then I'm going to start bringing some YouTubers up into my lives like I used to do a long time ago. And we're going to talk about a topic. And I think when you get a couple more opinions on certain things, I think it can always be good. Ginger says, "What's the point of going to the store, Jessie?" Oh, Nan says, "Where's that husband adjuster?" You guys. But everybody have a great night. I appreciate you taking a half hour of your time. And Rudy, I will mail that hat out to you. And if you are a YouTuber and you would like to be up on one of my lives, just send me an email and we will get that scheduled. And I will see you next time. Bye, everybody.